Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan, and this is Real Faith TV.
Hi Jonathan, I'm so sorry I'm late. I have so much stuff going on. Today I had a history test, I have a paper to write, I have 1,000 things to do. Were you gonna start the show without me?
Well, yeah, we didn't know where you were.
Well, I'm under so much pressure at school lately, with college applications, assignments, there's 1,000 things going on.
I know what you mean. It seems like pressure's coming from all sides. I don't think our parents had it nearly this bad.
I don't think so either. You know, I always hear that story though, how they had to walk 2 miles in the rain every single day to get to school.
Don't forget the snow, too. I think everyone's heard that story.
Yeah, I think most teens face pressure when it comes to school. It comes from different sources, but it's still there.
Yeah, you know, why don't we talk about that today? Why don't you forget about school for about a half an hour? Think you could do that?
Well, okay, but after the show I'm gonna write my paper.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Alicia.
And this is Real Faith TV. Today we will talk about the pressures that teens have to succeed and do well in school.
We will meet Beth, who will talk to us about how her faith keeps her grounded. But first, let's go to our teens on the street and see if they have a lot of pressure when it comes to their schoolwork.
Yeah, that's a big issue. I'm in S&E in Manalapan High School. It's a learning center, and so many of the kids, they want all A's, and they're expecting, you know, to get valedictorian and get into a good college. But their parents, most of it is their parents pressuring them too much, and I think they should just ease off and let them live their life.
Sometimes I feel pressure from my family because I know both my parents were really good students in high school, and I try to be more like them.
Yeah, I feel pressure from my parents to do well, because if I don't, I know that I won't be able to go to a really good, better college, and be able to get into a good school and have a good career.
A little, just because of my parents.
Do you get a lot of pressure from your parents to do well in school?
Not exactly. They tell me that I could do a lot better than what I am and everything. And
oh, my dad wanted me to go to Princeton, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. But I'm going for the next best thing, so it doesn't make a difference to me.
My dad, he was also a pretty good student, and I've tried to live up to his standards and not let him down.
my parents have always put a lot of pressure on me because, I don't know that they did all too well in high school, so they feel that maybe I'm their chance to make everything up. But so if something happens, I put pressure on myself because I feel like I'm disappointing my parents.
Yeah, I feel pressured through my parents and everything. And they want me having great grades.
My brother curses to him as a genius. Yeah. He's got his doctorate in philosophy and did all of it on scholarships. And a lot to live up to, so I try pretty hard.
I do feel pressure sometimes from my parents because I don't want to shame them, make them think that I'm stupid or anything.
Most of my pressure actually comes from friends who do better than me, and I get jealous, and then I'm thinking, oh no, I've got to make all A's so that I'm like them.
I think everybody had pressure that was interviewed. You know, most of the people said they had pressure from their parents. Some said friends, but all in all, they all had pressure.
Yeah, pressure comes from all different places, but we all feel it.
Now let's meet Beth and find out if she feels a lot of pressure to make the grade.
I think that there's a lot of pressure to do well in school, and I think it comes from a lot of different places too. I think that, first of all, that there are a lot of pressure coming from your friends and your peers because, a lot of times a teacher will hand back a test and your friend will say to you, oh, what'd you get on that test? And you see theirs, they did well, and maybe you didn't do so well, and you either feel embarrassed or shamed and you don't want to tell them that, and you want to be able to keep up with your friends and be at the same level they are. So I think that there's a lot of pressure in that sense. And I think that there's a lot of pressure coming from teachers because obviously your teachers expect you to do well because they're your teachers. And I think that there's also a lot of pressure coming from parents because they don't want you to waste your education and they want you to try your best. So there are a lot of different pressures. As far as expectations go, all my parents really expect of me is to try my hardest and to do the best that I can. And I think that I do live up to that because I too, for myself, want to do well, and I do try my hardest. And so there's nothing more to live up to than that. If you're trying your hardest, there's nothing more anyone can ask of you. For example, in the class this year, American Studies, I'm usually a straight A student, and I worked really, really hard all year, and I just kept getting B's, and I couldn't pull that A. And finally, fourth marking period, I worked harder in that class than I'd ever worked before. Not that I hadn't been working hard in the past marking periods, and I finally was able to pull that A, and I think that it just shows if you really set your mind to something and try the hardest that you can and that you will do well. And I think that and when I did get those B's, I was perfectly happy with them because I was trying my hardest, and that's all that anyone can ever do. I think it is important to do well in school because you need to have an education, you need to learn certain things, and I think that not only does school teach you important things about history or mathematics, but I think that in trying to do well in school, you learn a lot about responsibility and how to schedule out your day and handle things each day and take on responsibilities, and I think that that's an important thing in life.
It's good that Beth really motivates herself and she gets the grades that she works for.
Yeah, I like it how she's saying, like, if you set a goal for yourself and you don't reach it, but you try your hardest, you shouldn't put any pressure, like, on yourself.
Exactly. Let's see how our guests feel about that.
Okay.
Our guests today are Jim, Christina, Meredith, Mike, and Nicole.
So do you guys feel a lot of pressure to do well in school? And if so, where does it come from?
Yeah, usually it comes from your friends, because you always try to do better than them, you know.
I think there's always a lot of pressure involved in schoolwork and everything like that, just because your parents always want the best for you. Like a lot of them said that your parents always want to make you better, and if they didn't do that well, they want you to excel in everything that you can, so.
Your parents always want you to be better than they were at
Yeah.
everything. I know my parents do that. And sometimes it's a pretty tall order because, you know, they were pretty good students themselves, and it's a lot of pressure on them.
I think the pressure comes from living up to their expectations. 'Cause your parents they'll always say, "Oh, my kid's so smart," and this and that. You know, they'll always be bragging, saying, if you do good in school, they'll always want you to get straight A's, and if you get something less, you'll feel pressure, you know, to do better the next time.
You'll feel like you let them down.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents also have the idea of the college they want you to go to. Maybe they want you to go to their old college or something like that. And they want to see you do your best, and they want to see you be successful. So they might get upset when you don't, you know, do your full potential.
Yeah, I agree with that too, you know. Sometimes it feels like they plan my whole, like, educational, like, life out without even asking me, like, oh, you're going to go to this college, and then you're going to be this when you grow up. And, you know, it does put pressure on you because you have to. You know, you don't have to, but you want to, because, you know, they'll tell you, you be whatever you want when you grow up, and you go to any school you want to, but I feel like they're just saying that, you know, I don't want to let them down.
And if you do your best like your parents tell you, you usually get good rewards out of it, too.
Yeah, another reason that I sometimes feel like my grades aren't the best is that when you're in a competitive environment, like in high school, a lot of my friends are concerned with their grades, and I am too, because I want to go to a good college. And it's hard when you're comparing yourself constantly to your friends. You're comparing your SATs and how you do on tests, and it's really hard.
Yeah, sometimes your friends even make fun of you for not having, like, A's or B's or whatever they have.
Put a lot of pressure on yourself. Pressure to do well can be bad when unreasonable expectations are set. This can destine someone for failure.
We must remember, though, not to let the grades a person get become a measuring stick to their character or ability to acquire gainful employment.
Or their dignity as a human being.
However, it is difficult to avoid the fact that society, our parents, our teachers, and even ourselves stress the importance of getting good grades.
Let's find out how important grades are to the teens we met on the street.
Yeah, I think it's important because if you don't do well, then like decides the rest of your life pretty much, how you do in school. If you do well, you can do better, get into a better college, and get better jobs, have a better career and better rest of your life.
If you don't do well in school, there's really nothing you got going for yourself in your future, because without doing well in school, you can't get a job in the future, go to college or anything like that. So
I find it very important because I really want to go to college and play football and stuff like that. So if I don't get good grades, I won't get to a good college. So
I think grades are important because you need to get into a good college and do well in school to have a nice life and everything, so yeah.
I think they're important, but right now I don't really care, but I'm sorry about that.
I don't think grades themselves are important, it's the effort you put into them.
As long as I learn what the teacher's telling me, it really doesn't bother me.
Yeah, they're important because you have to go to the next grade with good grades, but I think if you know this stuff, I don't think you need a grade to reflect it.
It seems like most of the people that were interviewed think that school is pretty important. I think I agree with them.
Beth also talked about what lengths she would go to make the grade.
Let's see what she said.
I take voice lessons, I do dance, I do the school musicals, I help choreograph for a musical that the middle school in our school district does, and all sorts of other things. And at times it's really hard to balance the schoolwork, but I think that the important thing to remember is that the extracurricular activities are that. They're extra. They're almost, in a sense, like a reward for doing well. If you don't do well, you don't really deserve to do those other things that are fun. So sometimes I'll get home like right before the musical, get home from rehearsal at like 9:30 at night and have to start all your homework then. But you know, I do it because the musical is something that I love, and staying up late to finish my schoolwork that week before the show is a sacrifice I'm willing to make. And if you're not willing to make that sacrifice, I don't really think you have a right to be involving yourself in that activity, because I think that schoolwork should come first. I would go far to make the grade in the sense that I'm going to try my hardest and I'm going to study my best, but I would never do something as to cheat or take answers from somebody else or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, that I would try my hardest too to get the grade, but I wouldn't cheat or anything.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just so hard to resist that temptation, though. Like if you're in homeroom and you remember, I didn't do my homework last night, and your friend says, oh, you can copy mine. It's hard to resist.
Yeah, it is. How important is it for you guys to get good grades, and how far would you guys go to make the grade?
I think a lot of times it's not how far you would go, it's how far you can go, because a lot of times kids have so much stuff going on that it's hard to sort it all out at the same time while you still need to maintain those grades, you know? So I think grades hold a high importance on a scale of life, but I think what makes you happy is what you should be doing. So I think grades are very important, though. I think they should be up in the top, you know, 2 things that are very important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you had to make a choice between doing your homework, or you like to sing a lot, right?
Yeah.
Or like doing something you really like, going to choir or something, what do you think would be more important?
Well, I think it depends on what the situation is, too. I think if you are willing to sacrifice, you know, a late homework, it depends on what kind of person you are, you know? But for me, personally, I know I would do the homework, get it done, or if I knew that, you know, going to choir would only take a half hour and I could get the homework done the rest of that night, it wouldn't be a problem for me. So, but I think either way, I'd have to have the homework done before.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all about balancing everything. Yeah. But sometimes it gets so hard to balance that you might do things to get yourself ahead. Like, I once had a friend who was so behind in her work, and she knew that she needed to stay up and finish everything. So she started taking caffeine pills, even though she knew that they were bad for her. And I think in situations like that, it is just as far as you can go. Like, how much can you push yourself to get the best grades that you can get and get into the best college you can get into? But it's not always right. Going to extreme lengths to make the grade, like cheating or paying someone for answers, are all wrong and against the values and morals we hold as Catholic Christians.
Taking classes you have no interest in just to help you to get into the college of your choice is not being true to yourself either.
At some point, we each have to look at ourselves and recognize what gifts we have and channel them into the direction we feel called to follow.
Spending time in prayer can help you to prioritize and balance your schoolwork with the rest of your life.
It is sometimes hard to balance the two, but it can be done.
Let's check out our teens in the street and ask them if they find it difficult to balance school with other activities.
I think grades are important. They're gotta get good grades, but you gotta balance it off, do other things too, sports and extracurricular stuff.
For me, sometimes it can get kind of hectic because I have several honors courses, which is a lot of work, and you have to balance it out. And plus, I have like extracurricular activities, which I also got to balance out with my social life.
Sometimes it is, like, sometimes when you get a lot of big projects, it's kind of hard, but you know what you have to do first. You have to get the schoolwork done first. It's more important.
During basketball season, I also do wrestling, so every night I have practice, so and that's when I start slipping with my homework.
I play 3 sports a year, and you know it's really hard. It's really, what do you have to do? You time management. It's really all time management, and basically if you manage your time, you'll be fine.
I've gotten involved in way too many things before, and my grades have fallen and stuff. But like, I don't know. You just learn. You learn that you have to give some things up.
So what do you guys think? Do you participate in a lot of activities, and if so, how do you balance them?
I participate in like a lot of stuff between sports, you know, work, you know, I act, you know, in school plays, I'm involved in clubs in school, and I find it hard sometimes, but you just got to learn to schedule things, you know, and plan your days out, you know, go home, finish your homework, and then go out, do your activity, come home, you know, you got to plan things out, and you can pretty much fit in what you want, but sometimes you have to give up something, you know, to keep your grades up.
And I also think like a lot of it has to do with experience, like the girl said on the video, that, you know, people can tell you till they're blue in the face that, you know, you're not going to be able to handle this, that, and the other and still keep up your grades. But I think you have to figure that out for yourself, and once you do that, you'll be able to handle and balance things a lot more organized in your life. So.
And you don't want to get into too much stuff after school, because at that point you just can't handle everything and you just have no time for it.
Yeah, managing your time is so important, and I know that I used to dance 7 days a week, and when I stopped dancing, my grades went up. So I found that I have to choose my extracurricular activities, because if I have too much going on, then my grades won't be as good, and school is definitely important, and I need to space out my time and have specific things picked out, and so I can get good grades.
We have to set our priorities and look at what's really important to us.
Prayer can be a great source of peace and strength in this area.
Let's see how prayer and faith has helped Beth deal with the pressure to make the grade.
I think my faith helps me in a couple of different ways when it comes to schoolwork. First of all, like I said, I would never cheat, and I think that that's also related to my religion, because I know that that's not what God wants for me. God wants me to learn. He doesn't want me to just do things so I get the good grade. He would rather me try my best and do all that He knows that I can do with my own mind, not taking the answers from someone else. And also, for example, if I'm up really late one night studying and really struggling with something, and finally I decide, you know, put it all away, go to bed, and I just think it's good to just sit there and pray and ask God, you know, I tried my hardest, and I know that you know that, but just, you know, help me, guide me, be with me when I'm taking this test, and give me peace. And on days when I'm really worried about a test or a project or something I have coming up that day, a lot of times I'll wear my cross necklace or other crosses that I have, because I have quite a few necklaces like this. And it just sort of brings you peace when you're having a stressful day and you need to look for something. Prayer helps a lot because it brings you a good sense of peace, and I think that God can really guide you. And it's important to remember, while others may think if you don't get an A, that's the end of the world, and I think it's important in times like those when you're upset or you don't feel as smart as someone else to turn to God, because God made you, and He's going to love you whether you get an F or whether you get an A. You don't need good grades to get into heaven. If you're trying your hardest and doing the best that you can and you're still pulling like C's or even D's, but you're a good person and you're following your morals and doing everything that you know Jesus wants you to do in your life, then He's going to love you, and you're still going to go to heaven, and you're still a good person. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person just because you've gotten a bad grade. And I think that it's also important to remember that if you have made a mistake and you've cheated or stolen answers to a test or done something like that, that as long as you know that it's wrong and you've prayed and you've asking for forgiveness or even gone to confession, that Jesus knows that people make mistakes and that it's human nature, and He's going to forgive you.
So guys, how does your faith help you to deal with the pressure that you have to make the grade?
I think a lot of it is that prayer is a huge outlet in the sense of pressures and stuff. I think when you pray, you feel a lot less, you feel a lot more at ease when you just pray and let God know whatever's going on. So I think that's a really good outlet.
I think what Beth said about asking God for help and guidance and to be there by your side during the test or whatever's coming up that day, that really helps, and that's a big part.
I think it also gives you faith in yourself. Like when you pray to God and you think that He's going to help you, and I'm sure He will.
I know that I'm so bad at math, and whenever I'm about to take a math test, it really helps me to just sit down and pray and say, God, please help me on this test. Help me get a good grade because I've been working so hard.
You could even do something like meditation. I know we learned in religion class, not always prayer, like straight out, praying. You could meditate, and some people get in touch with God that way. It could really, build up your confidence and make you feel better about yourself and help you do better.
If you think about it, all a grade is a number or a letter. If you take away all of that superficial stuff and you think about what's really beautiful inside, what you get from school is the education, the knowledge that you have. So you need to kind of forget about the things that are on the outside and really think about, what have I learned here? What have I gotten from this?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I was going to say before that if you look at a person who has, say, a D average, and you should just look past a grade, go, I know myself, if I look at someone who has a D average, it's just my natural instinct to say, oh, he must be a slacker, must be a bad kid, I don't want to hang out with him. Maybe he's trying his hardest, he just can't do any better than that. And you should really look past the grade and become friends with somebody just because of who they are, not because of what they have or what grades they get.
And I think the burdens are really on everyone, because I think that a lot of times people forget that everyone has those things that really stress you out, and I think that you can get away from it. You just need to think about it logically and organize it for yourself.
Yeah, grades aren't always important. You always need street smarts and whatever. You can't survive with what you learn in school with everything.
Not making the grade you want or even failing a test or a class isn't the end of the world. Some of the greatest people in history have turned misfortune or failure into good.
We have to remember that our lives are not defined by a grade, a test, or your academic abilities.
There is a place for everyone in this world. God made us each for a purpose. We will never leave us abandoned.
There is nothing wrong with wanting to do your best and working your hardest to get a good grade.
But we must keep it all in perspective and remember that
success in school is good, but it doesn't always define success in life.
God sees us with different eyes than we see ourselves and each other. His love for us is constant.
Our SAT scores don't make a difference to him.
Do you feel a lot of pressure to make the grade?
We want to know. Log on to our website and tell us about it.
You can post your thoughts on our message boards or drop us an email. The address is www.realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at area code 609-406-7402.
And remember what Paul wrote in his first letter to the Corinthians, that you could have all the knowledge in the world,
but without love, you are nothing.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time
on Real Faith TV.
God bless.